In 2021, two separate regulators studied a mountain in Alberta and said no, definitively, scientifically, not in the public interest. 5 years later, the same mountain, the same pit, the same owners are back on the table because somebody found a workaround, a new name. I'm Bo Kaufman, and this is the Sanity Project, where we dig past the noise to find out what actually happened. Today, that means asking a strange question. How does a scientific no just stop counting? The place is Grassy Mountain, in the Crowsnest Pass, headwaters country feeding the Oldman River and the farms downstream. The plan was to blow the top off it for steel-making coal. Regulators said the selenium runoff would poison the water and the trout with it. Case closed, or so it seemed. Because the company didn't go away, it rebranded. Twice. And then it used its new name to argue this was a different application entirely. Whether that should have worked is one question. Whether it did is another. And there's a taxpayer-funded twist buried in the filings that makes it sting even more.
An open-pit coal mine, definitively rejected on environmental grounds by independent experts back in 2021, is somehow back on the table in 2026. Welcome to this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're pulling from, provincial regulatory filings, federal assessments, and corporate press releases to see how a definitive no on a massive project just turns into a maybe again. Our mission is to unpack exactly how that happens.
Yeah, and to really understand how this works, you have to look at the landscape first. So we are in Alberta, Canada, which is, a historically conservative province known for its oil and gas industry.
Right.
And since 2019, it's been governed by the United Conservative Party, or UCP, currently led by Premier Danielle Smith. The site we are looking at is Grassy Mountain.
Which is down in the Crowsnest Pass, right, in the eastern slopes of the Rockies.
Exactly. And the proposal here is for a massive, 2,800 hectare open pit metallurgical coal mine.
Which means literally removing the top of the mountain. And just to clarify for everyone listening, metallurgical coal isn't burned for electricity. It's an essential ingredient for making steel.
Right, which makes it a highly sought after global commodity. And this particular project is owned by Australian mining interests. We'll get to their specific corporate name in a minute because it actually matters a lot.
It really does. But first, why should you care about this specific mountain? Well, the eastern slopes are headwaters country. All that water drains straight into the Oldman River.
Yeah, which supplies farms and prairie communities hundreds of kilometers downstream. So water quality is the whole ballgame here.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the 2021 rejection. Two independent bodies took a look at this, right?
Right. It was a joint review panel. So you had the Alberta Energy Regulator, the AER, which is the Provincial Resource Regulator, and the Federal Impact Assessment Agency. They held, 5 weeks of public hearings.
Wow, 5 weeks.
Yeah, they looked at every single angle, economic, environmental, social, and their finding was that there would be significant, unmitigable adverse effects on surface water quality and specifically the West Slope cutthroat trout.
Because of selenium leaching, if I remember the filings correctly, you blast a mountain, expose the waste rock, and selenium washes into the river system.
Exactly. It bioaccumulates in the food chain and basically causes reproductive failure in the fish. So the panel declared the project was simply not in the public interest under Alberta's Coal Conservation Act.
And then the federal government agreed.
Yep. In August 2021, they followed up with their own rejection.
So two independent bodies. One unified verdict, not in the public interest. So how on earth are we talking about this again in 2026?
Well, this is where the corporate shell game comes in. The original company behind the application was called Benga Mining Limited.
Owned by the Australians.
Right. But after the 2021 rejection, Benga rebranded itself to Montem Resources, and then Montem rebranded again to Northback Holdings Corporation.
Wait, so it's literally the same mountain in southwestern Alberta, the same open pit design, the exact same Australian ownership structure, just a new corporate name.
That's exactly it. Same everything, new name.
It's like putting a fake mustache on a mountain. I mean, if the project genuinely changed, why didn't the address change with it?
That is the big question. But Northback used this new name to file fresh applications with the Alberta Energy Regulator, arguing that their new submission was sufficiently distinct to require a fresh review.
But how does that work legally? Doesn't the regulator see that it's the exact same geographic coordinates that the science just said no to?
You would think so, but the regulatory system isn't really designed to permanently ban a mountain from development. Their mandate is just to evaluate the specific application placed in front of them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so if a quote-unquote new corporate entity submits an application, the regulator's rulebook legally obliges them to process it as a fresh, distinct submission rather than just tossing it out based on the 2021 ruling.
Okay, so to use an analogy, the regulator is like a bouncer at a club whose rulebook says check jackets, not faces. They just look at the new paperwork and have to ignore the overarching history.
That is a perfect analogy. And because of that structural reality, in December 2024, the AER held new public hearings, and then in May 2025, they actually approved NorthPac's application to conduct a new coal exploration program at Grassy Mountain.
That is wild. I mean, it really shows how this isn't a neutral system. It's a demonstration of how a patient, well-funded foreign applicant can completely game a provincial regulator.
And there is one more detail in the provincial filings that really adds insult to injury here.
Oh yeah, the kicker. The financial part.
Right. So while all this is happening, the UCP government quietly paid out $238 million in public taxpayer settlements to these very same Australian coal companies.
Wait, $238 million for what?
For policy flip-flops. The province kept shifting its coal development policies, so the company sued for lost investments, and the government ultimately just settled out of court.
So taxpayers are handing over nearly $250 million because of shifting policies, while the underlying regulatory system allows those exact same interests to just reset the clock on their application.
Precisely. The system permits it.
Which leaves you with a really provocative question to mull over. If a definitive scientifically backed no from federal and provincial regulators can just be erased by a corporate rebrand and a few years of patience, does an environmental rejection actually exist anymore? Or will future regulators have to shift their entire legal framework to permanently ban specific geographic coordinates rather than just rejecting the companies that apply to mine them?
What gets me about this story isn't the mountain, it's the paperwork. A scientific no turned out to be negotiable, not through new evidence, but a new letterhead that should bother you more than the mining itself. If stories like this, where the real decision gets made in the fine print, not the headlines, are your kind of thing, subscribe to the Sanity Project and find the full breakdown at thesanity.org. See you next time.
If you want more facts and less fear, hit subscribe. Check out the next breakdown wherever you're listening or watching. Stay sane, Canada.